The city was dead. Jack Morrison moved through the ruins like a shadow, his footsteps silent on the cracked pavement. Smoke hung in the air, the charred remains of once proud skyscrapers standing like gravestones against a gray sky. The Galactic Empire had wiped out Earth's defenses in a matter of weeks. Now the only ones left were the survivors, the fighters, the ghosts. Men like him. He knelt behind a shattered car, scanning the street with his scope. 3 alien patrols in formation. 8 feet tall, encased in metallic armor, their elongated heads scanning for movement. They carried plasma rifles, weapons that could turn flesh to ash in an instant. Jack counted heartbeats. Slow. Steady. He had time. Sector 12 clear, one of the aliens reported in its guttural tongue. Confirmed, another replied. No human resistance detected. Jack exhaled through his nose. They were confident. Good. The old world had its rules: precision, patience, positioning. The new world only had one: survive. He slung his rifle over his back and slipped into an alley. He had to move. Staying in one place too long got you killed. A few blocks away, he found what he was looking for: an abandoned storefront. The faded sign read Jensen's Sporting Goods. He pushed inside, stepping over broken glass and rusted shelves. Dust coated everything. He moved to the back, knocking on a wooden panel 3 times, pausing, then knocking twice more. Silence. Then, a faint click. The panel slid open, revealing a narrow tunnel leading underground. Jack ducked inside. A moment later, he was staring down the barrel of a shotgun. You made it, Sarah Hayes said, lowering the weapon. She was covered in grime, her once pristine marine fatigues torn and patched with whatever she could find. Her auburn hair was tied back in a tight knot, her eyes sharp and wary. Didn't have much of a choice, Jack replied. Sarah led him through the tunnel into a makeshift war room. The walls were covered in maps and scattered notes. A small group of fighters sat around a flickering lantern, their faces gaunt but determined. You're the only one who can do this, Sarah said, getting straight to the point. Zyvar Cray is here, in this city. If we take him out... Jack shook his head. You don't just take out an overlord. He's not some green recruit. Sarah's jaw tightened. Then what do you suggest? Because sitting here waiting to die isn't a plan. Jack sighed. He hadn't come here to argue. He had come to finish something. What do you have? He asked. Sarah nodded to a holographic display on the table. It flickered to life, showing a towering fortress at the city's edge. Empire Command is stationed here. Heavily guarded. We can't get close. Jack studied the map. Multiple entry points, all secured. Patrols every 15 minutes. A kill box. Suicide, he muttered. Sarah smirked. Sounds like your kind of mission. Jack ignored her. He tapped the screen, focusing on a particular rooftop adjacent to the command center. What about here? Sarah frowned. That's 2 clicks from the target. Too far for most. Not for me, Jack said. The room fell silent. Everyone knew the stories. The ghost of Fallujah. The phantom of Kandahar. Jack Morrison had once made a confirmed kill from over 2 miles away. Sarah exhaled. You really think you can take the shot? Jack didn't answer. He didn't need to. She ran a hand through her hair, then nodded. Fine. We'll get you there. Jack looked at the group of fighters, their eyes filled with hope and fear. He had seen that look before. Young soldiers before a fight, pretending they weren't afraid. He wouldn't promise them victory, but he would give them a chance. Later that night, Jack perched on the rooftop, rifle resting on a makeshift bipod. The city stretched before him, the fortress bathed in artificial light. His breathing slowed, his body still. The Empire thought they had won. They thought humanity was broken. Jack curled his finger around the trigger. They were wrong. Jack Morrison lay flat against the rooftop, his rifle nestled against his shoulder. The city sprawled beneath him, silent, lifeless. A world conquered, but not broken. Not yet. Through his scope, he tracked his target. Commander Viwarnax, a high-ranking officer of the Galactic Empire. The alien moved with a practiced arrogance, his thick, armored boots clanking against the steel platform of the command outpost. 2 sentries flanked him, scanning the area with eerie precision. They weren't expecting trouble. Not here. Jack adjusted the windage dial, his breathing measured. He had taken thousands of shots in his life, but this one mattered more than most. The first real strike against the invaders. Sarah's voice crackled in his earpiece. You in position? Locked in. Take the shot when ready. Extraction points set. Make it count. Jack tuned her out. The world shrank to the thin crosshairs in his scope, to the rhythmic rise and fall of his breath. The wind shifted slightly, nothing major, but enough to compensate. He curled his finger around the trigger. A heartbeat, a whisper of motion. Then, boom. The rifle kicked against his shoulder. A .50 caliber round cut through the night. Half a second later, Viwarnax's head snapped back, a burst of purple mist spraying the air. His body crumpled. Jack had already cycled the bolt. The sentries hesitated, their primitive minds struggling to process what had happened. Another shot rang out. The second alien dropped, a hole punched clean through its skull. The third turned, frantically scanning the rooftop. Jack exhaled and pulled the trigger again. A split second later, the last body hit the ground. 3 shots. 3 kills. The silence afterward was almost deafening. Then came the chaos. Alarms blared across the city. Searchlights cut through the darkness, sweeping across buildings. Jack was already moving. He slid backward, keeping low as he dismantled his rifle with practiced speed, tucking it into his pack. The longer he stayed, the greater the risk. Sarah's voice came through again. Jack, you've got hostiles mobilizing. Get out of there now. Already on it. He descended the crumbling fire escape, boots barely making a sound. Below, sirens wailed, alien vehicles screeching through the streets. The enemy was frantic, panicked. Good. They had just realized that they weren't invincible. Jack hit the ground running, ducking into an alley. His extraction point was 3 blocks away, an old subway tunnel that resistance fighters had repurposed as an escape route. He moved fast, slipping between abandoned cars, staying out of sight. A low hum made him freeze. He pressed against a wall as a sleek, black drone hovered overhead, its glowing red sensors sweeping the street. Jack held his breath. A few degrees to the left, and it would spot him. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then, the drone moved on. Jack exhaled and kept moving. Halfway to the tunnel, he heard the distinct clank of heavy boot. He ducked behind a wrecked truck, peering through a shattered window. A 4-man squad of Empire soldiers swept the street, their plasma rifles humming with energy. Their leader, a brutish figure in deep crimson armor, barked orders in their guttural language. Jack sized them up. Standard formation. Focused ahead, not checking their flanks. Trained, but predictable. He drew his sidearm, a suppressed .45, and steadied his aim. 1 shot. The rear guard fell without a sound. The others didn't react immediately. He took down the second before they registered what was happening. The remaining 2 spun, raising their weapons. Jack was faster. 2 more shots. 2 more bodies dropped. He moved quickly, grabbing one of their plasma rifles before sprinting toward the subway entrance. The air behind him burned as another drone locked onto his position, plasma bolts ripping through the street. Jack dove, rolling through the narrow passage as a blast scorched the concrete behind him. The moment he was underground, he was met with a familiar face. Sarah yanked him to his feet. Jesus, Jack. Had a welcoming party up top, he muttered, brushing dust from his gear. Guess they didn't like my message. Sarah glanced at the plasma rifle in his hand. Nice souvenir. Jack smirked. Figured I'd try something new. Behind them, the tunnel stretched into darkness, the rest of the resistance waiting below. They had just struck the first real blow against the Empire. Jack knew what came next. Retaliation. And he'd be ready. The city burned. Jack Morrison crouched behind the crumbling remains of a department store, watching searchlights carve through the night. The Galactic Empire was hunting him. His shot had shattered their illusion of invincibility, and now they were lashing out like a wounded animal. Every patrol moved in formation, scanning rooftops and alleyways. The streets, once lifeless, now pulsed with enemy movement. Sarah knelt beside him, adjusting the stolen plasma rifle slung over her shoulder. They locked down the main roads. We won't make it back to base without a fight. Jack's eyes traced the patrol patterns. Then we don't take the roads. She followed his gaze to the shattered high-rises towering over them. Rooftops. Jack nodded. They're watching the ground. We go up. A distant explosion rumbled through the ruins, followed by the crackle of gunfire. Somewhere, another resistance cell was striking. The attack had ignited something. People were fighting back. Jack led the way, scaling the fire escape of a half-collapsed building. Metal groaned beneath their weight, but it held. From the rooftop, they had a clear view of the command fortress in the distance, Zyvar Kray's stronghold. Sarah wiped sweat from her brow. That's where this ends, isn't it? Jack checked his gear. One bullet at a time. The resistance strikes back. They moved across rooftops, sticking to the shadows. Below, the streets swarmed with enemy forces. Drones zipped through the air, scanning for movement. Jack timed their flight paths, signaling Sarah when to move. At the edge of an office tower, they found their opportunity. A squad of enemy soldiers had set up a checkpoint at an intersection. Jack counted 10 of them, rifles ready. Sarah studied the formation. Too many. Jack pulled a small detonator from his vest. Not if we thin them out first. A smirk tugged at Sarah's lips. Tell me you rigged something. Jack nodded toward a ruined bus half a block away. Left a little surprise earlier. He pressed the detonator. The explosion tore through the silence, sending metal and debris flying. The soldiers at the checkpoint spun toward the blast, momentarily exposed. Jack lined up his shot and fired. The first soldier dropped. Sarah followed with a burst from her plasma rifle, cutting down 2 more. The rest scrambled for cover. Jack moved fast, keeping the pressure on. One by one, the enemies fell. When the last body hit the pavement, Sarah exhaled. That's how it's done. Jack didn't celebrate. More will come. We need to move. A dangerous gamble. They slipped into the ruins, heading for an underground safehouse where the rest of the resistance was waiting. When they arrived, the room was tense. Fighters crowded around a stolen holographic map, murmuring in hushed voices. Sarah clapped her hands. What's the situation? A young man named Taurus turned. The Empire's moving fast. They've reinforced every major outpost. But we intercepted a transmission, Kray's still in the command center. Jack studied the map. They know I'm coming. A woman scoffed. You think you rattled him? Jack met her gaze. I don't need him scared. I just need him aware. Sarah leaned in. We can't just charge in. We don't have the numbers. Jack tapped a location on the map, a power station near the fortress. What about this? Torres frowned. That controls the city's defenses. Jack nodded. Knock it out and we blind their sensors. It won't stop them, but it'll give me an opening. The fighters exchanged glances. It was risky, but everything was. Sarah sighed. You really think you can make the shot in time? Jack chambered around. I don't miss. The power play. Night fell again as they made their move. Jack and a small team slipped through the ruins toward the power station. Guards patrolled the perimeter, unaware of the resistance closing in. Torres whispered, You take the shot, we'll handle the rest. Jack found his vantage point and lined up his scope. The main generator sat exposed, humming with energy. If they took it out, the fortress would go dark for a critical window. He exhaled and pulled the trigger. The bullet punched through the generator's core. Sparks erupted. A second later, an explosion rocked the ground, plunging the city into darkness. Sarah's voice crackled over the radio. We just pissed off a lot of people. Jack slung his rifle. Then let's finish this. In the distance, the fortress loomed. The final shot was waiting. The world had gone dark. Jack Morrison crouched atop a ruined skyscraper, his rifle steady against the rubble. Below him, the Galactic Empire's command fortress sat in eerie silence, its defensive turrets lifeless, sensors blind. The power station attack had worked. The enemy was scrambling to restore control, but it was too late. Sarah's voice crackled in his earpiece. We've got resistance cells engaging patrols all over the city. They're stretched thin. This is your moment. Jack adjusted his scope. Then let's end this. Through the lens, he tracked Zyvar Cray, overlord of the occupation forces, standing on the fortress balcony. The alien leader was massive, his silver armor reflecting the moonlight. He barked orders to his subordinates, frustration evident in every sharp gesture. Jack exhaled, syncing his heartbeat with the stillness of his rifle. Distance, 2,500 yards. Wind, negligible. Angle, perfect. This was the shot that mattered. He curled his finger around the trigger. A plasma bolt sizzled past his head. Jack rolled instinctively, his cover exploding in a shower of stone and dust. He landed in a crouch, weapon raised. A black-armored enemy sniper stood on a rooftop across from him, rifle glowing with heat. Cray had expected him. The enemy sniper reloaded, moving with practiced precision. Jack sprinted behind a vent shaft, his mind racing. He couldn't let this drag out. Cray wouldn't stay in the open for long. Another shot ripped through the air, scorching the metal beside him. Jack pivoted, firing a suppressed round mid-dive. The bullet grazed the enemy's shoulder, staggering him. Not enough. Jack hit the ground, rolled, and fired again. The shot punched through the enemy's visor, dropping him instantly. No time to breathe. He scrambled back to position. Cray was turning to leave. Jack inhaled, steadied, fired. The bullet cut through the night, whispering across the city. Cray barely had time to register the impact before his body jerked backward, a perfect hole between his cold, violet eyes. For the first time since the invasion, silence fell over the city. Then, chaos. The escape. Sirens erupted. Enemy forces scrambled, but without leadership, they hesitated. Jack didn't. He packed his rifle and ran. Sarah's voice came through, urgent. Jack, you did it. They're falling apart. I won't be around to celebrate if we don't move, he shot back, vaulting over debris. A patrol of Empire soldiers stormed the building below, weapons raised. Jack hurled himself down the fire escape as plasma fire tore the metal behind him. The ground rushed up. He hit hard, rolling through shattered glass. Pain shot through his ribs, but he pushed forward. Sarah's voice was sharp. Get to the extraction point now. Jack sprinted through the streets, weaving between wreckage. Resistance fighters emerged from the shadows, engaging the disoriented enemy forces. Explosions thundered in the distance. He turned a corner and stopped. A towering Imperial war machine blocked the road, its twin cannons glowing. The pilot inside locked onto him. Jack moved. The first shot vaporized the ground where he'd been standing. He slid behind a wrecked car, reaching for his last explosive charge. One shot. One chance. He armed it, counted to 3, and threw. The blast engulfed the machine's cockpit, fire licking at the sky. Jack didn't wait for the smoke to clear. He ran. The subway entrance loomed ahead. Resistance fighters covered his retreat, laying down suppressive fire. He dove inside, landing hard on the cold track. Sarah grabbed his vest, hauling him up. You look like hell. Jack grinned. You should see the other guy. Above them, the city burned, but this time, it wasn't just destruction. It was a symbol. A beginning. The resistance had won its first true victory. And Jack Morrison had fired the shot that started it all.